No, man, but you got to keep going. What am I going to do, quit? That's not an option. You got to keep on keeping on. Life's a garden, dig it? You make it work for you. You never give up, man. That's my philosophy.
Welcome to the Let's Get Growing show. My name is Jay Dixon, and we are on the Urban Gardener channel. Welcome. Thanks for coming and joining us with our show today. We have a really interesting show because we have a special guest today. And I'm just going to take a second to show you that our guest and topic are Adam Burleigh, and he's going to be talking about last call, nourish your soil before winter arrives. So that's what's going to be happening later in our show, but we have a few things to take care of before that happens. What I'd like to do today is to show you a little bit of a slideshow of what's going on in my garden. And my garden is in winter because I live in Midwestern Ontario, Canada, and we are a Nordic country. So the reality is that we're going to be dealing with winter. So I'm just going to do a slideshow and show you a little bit about what's going on in my garden. So basically, as I sort of foreshadowed with you, the garden is, for most people, finished. In my region, I live in a tiny home village, and they provide us with a community garden space. And there are 43 spots. And in those 43 garden spots, I have one and sort of a second one that is my partner. And periodically, some of the people who are also having garden plots there don't really fully utilize them. And they know that I am plant greedy, so they sometimes make their garden space available to me. Usually it's on a temporary basis, but I am all for it. In fact, I'm hoping to get better organized to utilize the space better. And our guest that we'll be having tomorrow will be sort of helping with some of that. So these garden spots are small, and they are approximately 10 by 20 feet. And with a 10 by 20 foot garden, you have to be a bit creative with your space. And right now, because we've recently had snows, you're going to be looking through the snow and seeing what still exists there. And some of you who haven't been experiencing cold weather crops before might be saying, what? You're talking about showing me snow. Who cares what the plants are underneath? You shall see. So this is my first garden plot, and this particular one is a raised bed that looks like it's got snow and detritus, and you think, what's going on there? What is going on there is carrots, and those carrots are super happy to be there. In fact, carrots, to some people's point of view, is that it's actually a better time in the season after a couple of frosts. So I've deliberately left those carrots in there so that they will be a mild, sweeter taste. So it looks like nothing, but it's carrots for me that I will be picking in the next month or so before we get the ground totally frozen and hard to get the stuff out. And here's another garden plot that, again, is not mine, but that I grow stuff in. You can see it's lined with some straw that I got from Halloween decorations. It's not currently distributed to be a mulch, although it might be, until I do some testing to see if there's aminopearlides. And for those of you who are not familiar with aminopearlides, essentially what that is an herbicide that can be persistent in some regards. And those aminopearlides for a gardener can be really bad news. Even professional gardeners that I know ran into trouble with those. So I am super grateful to have that straw, but that straw will not be going directly in contact with soil until I am relatively sure with some testing how it is and whether it's going to cause problems for me. It's ultimately usable because it does have kind of a half-life, a certain amount of time, where if you wait long enough, it'll basically no longer be an issue. But for right now, I don't want it in contact with any growing soil until I am sure. And that's going to mean a couple of what they call assay tests, which essentially means growing a couple of sensitive crops a couple of times and seeing if they're affected by um, the straw, basically. And I will probably be soaking the straw and applying it is most likely path, but I'm going to research a little more before I do it because it will be my first bioassay. And here's again another section of my garden, and you think, that's not so much. I mean, it doesn't really look like it's anything at all. What that is about a third of my cabbages, and they are not magazine quality cabbages, but the thing is they are also something that benefits from frost. So it will be a better product in my opinion. And again, here we have some different types of bright light Swiss chard and a little bit of kale, again, bettered by the frost. So they're, as you can see, not thrilled, but they are improving. And essentially what happens is the carbohydrates turns into sugars. And so in some people's opinion, it's actually a nicer crop. And this is Brussels sprouts. It's my first time growing them. This is maybe about half of my Brussels sprouts. I couldn't quite get a good angle to show you more. And essentially, that's another crop that is happier after some frosts and tastes better. And this is my garden from a bit of a bigger angle. And it's got beets, Swiss chard, kale, Brussels sprouts, garlic, and a whole lot of mulch going on there. And that's kind of the main things that are happening with it right now. And here's another a borrowed space. This is somebody else's garden, and they are letting me grow stuff in their space. And what remains in there now is two types of kale. At the front is your typical sort of ruffled kale that is a little more able to handle the cold temperatures. And then the sort of frondy stuff in the back is actually, and pardon my pronunciation, but lactantia, often known as dinosaur kale. And my understanding is that it isn't quite as cold tolerant, but you can see it's still alive and functioning now. So happy. And then another space. This is, again, not even my garden space. This is somebody else's. And they're letting me grow there. And it's got some beets and some carrots in that space. And then as a way to kind of give back for the people letting me have space, I've chopped up leaves and covered the garden beds so that it is a nicer soil for them for next year. And again, here's more kale. This is more of the curly type, and as you can see, it's quite large. In my area, we get down to minus 25 or so Celsius at our coldest. Sometimes it goes a bit below that. I'm sorry, I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but minus 25 is very, very cold. And the kale, generally speaking, without cover, overwinters. And when it overwinters, because it's a biennial, it becomes a seed crop for the next year. And that's one of the reasons why I have some big mature ones that are left in space, is they're the seed crop for me and for everyone else. And if you choose to try and have your own seeds saving from kale, my experience is you don't need very much. Like a couple of plants will do you and everyone you care about for years for that. So you don't have to do a whole row unless you're going into the seed business. It is very abundant. And this is another garden. This is my partner's garden, and it has Swiss chard, kale, beets, and you can kind of see tall at the back there is some sunchokes. And I may be a little late for grabbing my sunchokes this year. We'll have to see how frozen the ground is. But it was my first time growing it. And I'm deliberately letting that be in a very raised bed, controlled area so that the sunchokes don't get out of control. And then the next part is related, but not today's garden. This is my low tunnels. And essentially those are homemade. And in the past, some people talked to me about what it is that I sometimes do to be able to grow in different seasons. And you can see, although this is not this year, you can see that there is mulch and snow going on at the edges there. Believe me, it's been much more covered by those things in the past. And essentially what those are dollar store hula hoops pulled apart. And when you pull them apart, be careful because there's little bits of plastic inside. And what you're going to do is pull them apart, and I just simply roughly plant them in the ground and then tent over either loosely and basically, or do a more shaped structure like what I've sewn there to basically make kind of like a Quonset hut, but you want it so that it can easily slide so you can get access over these hoops to be able to get underneath. You want to sort of anchor it down in various different ways, but the short version is that I have created my own. Why would you bother when you can buy them from the store? Well, first of all, it's cheaper. I can decide what quality of materials I want to have. I can decide what size I want to have. I can adapt it. I can fix it. I can change it. It's materials that are available to me. And I am super happy to be essentially creating my own. And another reason why I did it in that way is so that all of those materials, because I live in tiny house living and have minimal space, I have approximately 12, 13 of those low tunnels of various different sizes and types. I can fit those and those hoops all in one industrial size garbage bag. So I can basically squish it all flat, make it all fit in a tiny space, and just kind of slide it under a bed, put it in behind a door of a shed, whatever. So it takes up almost no space. And when I discover that there's been damage or that I want to expand or change it, it's very changeable because I grew it myself. So that's my slideshow for today. I just thought I would give you guys a little bit of a walkthrough about a garden in Canada in the winter. Again, my stuff is never really magazine quality, but yet I'm growing my own food. I am grateful for it when it comes. When I have an abundance, I try to share it with other people. And generally speaking, most Canadians in my region gave up on gardening I'd say more than 2 months ago. And it's limited, but yet you can still garden in this season. So I would like to thank you all for listening to my slideshow. And I'm going to get on to the next section. And great. So for all of my passionate plant people and garden enthusiasts, welcome to the Let's Get Growing show on the Urban Garden channel. I am Jay Dixon, aka the J-Bot, and I am your host. There is a great show ahead. Our featured guest today is Adam Burleigh. The show is Last Call, Nourish Your Soil Before Winter Arrives. Okay, so before we get into the next section of the show, I'm just going to connect up with our show sponsor, and then I will move on to the next section.
Hi, my name is Charles Malky, biologist and plant expert with Ivory Organics, where we grow cool plants and author, saving the world with the home garden, Ivory Organic 3-in-1 Plant Guard has 7 natural oils that protect your plants not just from the summer heat as well as winter cold, but also protects your plants from damaging insects and rodents. The oils in the product include castor, cinnamon, clove, garlic, peppermint, rosemary, and spearmint. These oils are natural insect and rodent repellent oils, which are encapsulated by the base powder, offering your plants months of protection at a time. 1 application per year will suffice for protection against damaging summer sunburn and winter sun scald, but if the target is pests, application as much as 2 to 3 times a year may be necessary.
Fantastic. The next section I'd like to talk about is that I would like you to like, subscribe, share in order to participate with this show. We get together every Saturday and Sunday at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, and 7 p.m. in the UK. And I'd like to do a huge shout out for those of you watching on the replay, and thank you for joining us after the stream. And let us know that you're here by leaving a comment below, either in the replay or some of you that are currently in the chat area. Now, for those of you who are in the chat, if you have a question or comment, ask it and we may feature it on the show. And helpful to me, because we have a lot happening here, is if you can put your questions in all caps, it makes it easier for me to notice your question or comment. And after the show, we, for those of you who check us out on the replay, we will have links in the description below so that you can learn more about our show. We also are accepting donations for the show. Approximately a month ago, we had a serious issue with the show, and you guys stepped forward and really saved the show by helping us with equipment. Unfortunately, there's a camera that still needed to be replaced, and we would appreciate any donations. The reason we point out Cash App, Venmo, and PayPal is they're a more direct form of donation with lower fees, but any type of donation, we are super grateful for that. Great. I'm just going to remind some of you of shows that we had seen recently. And for those of you who were paying attention the last couple of episodes, I have been your host for the last little while. And I did last weekend, I did a show called 2025 Garden Wrap Up. And I really want to say thank you so much to the live audience. The amount that you guys participated in the chat and the questions and answers you had to help each other and to further show your excitement for the show was just fantastic. So that show will be in the show archives. It was called 2025 Garden Wrap Up. And then we had another show in which we did vegetable garden myths. And again, the live audience really stepped up and gave us all kinds of enthusiasm about vegetable garden myths. And some of you even said that you would like to have additional shows or maybe even just a whole channel about vegetable garden myths. And I am super happy about your enthusiasm with that. We also had other shows in the past. We had the Let's Get Growing show in which I interviewed Enoch. And he is the usual show host that we have here. So that's Enoch Graham, who is normally here as your host, but not today. And we also had in the archives, we had Kristen Graves, who was talking about The Garlic Companion, which is her book. And that was on a Sunday edition. We also had Gardner Scott, and he was in the approximately a month ago, and he was also a guest and is totally available in the show archives. And we also had Dr. Jeff, who spoke about gardening as medicine, again, available in the gardening archives. in the show archives. So that's what's going on with what we had before. But what's interesting is I will be doing the show today and tomorrow. However, in the future, meaning in next month, we'll be having Enoch as the host once again, and he will have a number of things going on. And one will be, get ready for a community show. Watch for our posts and notices about the exact date, but it is most likely to be next weekend. So what's the advantage of a community show? It's a chance for you in the audience to be our guest. Perhaps you want to share your gardening story. Maybe you want to promote your channel. Maybe you've got an interesting project that you would like to promote and discuss. And that community show, most likely next weekend, will be your opportunity. And the great thing about that is it's only a couple of minutes. Most of us are very easygoing about people who are a little camera shy, not used to it. It's an opportunity for you to have just a little try at being live, but it's only a few minutes. So discuss what is most enthusiastic to you about gardening. Promote your channel, promote your projects. Maybe discuss something that's a perplexing gardening problem that you have. So that's what's happening when Enoch is back as our host. Another thing that's going to be happening is the Sunday monthly gardening book club will be back. And what's going to happen when Enoch returns is that he's going to be having his co-host, MBC, back again. And Marc Boucher-Colbert will be talking about the year in review, essentially talking about what did they experience and enjoy with the books that they've already featured on this channel. And we will be having Gardener Scott back again. He is usually a recurring guest each month, and he will have his gardening Q&A available. So those are some of the teasers about what is potentially coming up when Enoch returns. In the meantime, we're going to be talking about what's going to be happening today. And today, we are talking about Let's Get Growing show with Adam Burleigh, who will be our guest. So we're going to bring Adam on stage, and I would appreciate your enthusiasm. That will be in about 5 minutes' time. In the meantime, I just want to say hi to some of you who've appeared as some of our live people. And let's see who is here today. We have Bowtie Life. And David has really stepped up to help us so much in the chat area. He has been, sorry, I called him David. He is Mr. Botron when he is taking over and helping facilitate our show. And we are super grateful for it. We also have Janet McDonald, and she is a regular here, and we are super happy to have her. We also have Robin Gardens again, and Robin is an excellent supporter of the show, and a little teaser is that she is going to be our featured guest for tomorrow. And let's see who else. Boy, you guys have been so chatty. It's quite a thing to try and catch up with all of you here. I'm just going to see who all is here. We also have Kevin. And Kevin is asking, can carrots overwinter? It depends on where you live and how hard of a frost you have. In my experience, carrots can take a few frosts, but once the ground gets solidly frozen, it's hard to actually get them out. If you overwinter your carrots, you're essentially turning them to a biennial so that they will become seed producing the next year. So they will bolt when the spring comes, and if they survive the winter, depends on where you live, and they will become a seed producer the following year. So I have eaten a small amount of overwintered carrots. In my area, it's not really advised. It's acceptable, but it's not as good as if you harvested before that hard frost. And Dusty Flats is here, and I am grateful to see you here. The Wickershire Project, fantastic. Oh, here's him. Here is the Wickershire Project giving us some advice. Technically, carrots can overwinter. You're going to want to lay down some kind of barrier-like thick mulch. Now, that depends on where you live and how hard the ground freezes. So he is correct regarding the mulch helping with some of that. Another issue that I have in my area is that when the winter gets pretty tough, the voles and the mice and stuff like that start to try and look for any source of food, and your overwintered stuff in the garden becomes very, very tasty. So you're going to have less available. And Muddy Puddles Farm, fantastic, great, glad to see you here. And let's see, I just don't want to miss anybody. I am so glad that all of you are here. Fantastic, Shawnee Grows, super. Oh, David's helping me out. Minus 25 is 13, minus 25 Celsius is 13 Fahrenheit. So he's helping me out with the conversion. Canadians are a little bit funny in that we are somewhat flexible about imperial and metric in some categories and not in others. It depends on a lot of factors. Obviously, I am not terrific at that. And let's see, I just want to say hi to everybody who's dropped in. So grateful for you people being here. It is fantastic. Oh, here we go. Serena, glad to see you. Hopefully a few garden jokes. And Adam's reminding us here about the IV Organics having Grow 10 for 10% off. And I'm just making sure that I'm not missing out on anyone. Oh, I almost did. There's Farmer Marshall. Super grateful that you're here. Hello. And Paul from Guten Gardening, super glad to see you. And Big Will Dog 82 in the soil, glad to see. And let's see, who else? So many of you are regulars here, and we really appreciate that. Okay, if I've missed you, I am apologetic for that, but as many of you know, I'm an apprentice. I'm Canadian, so we apologize excessively, and I will try to calm that down. I was apologizing a little bit too much in the previous show, but I just wanted to be grateful for your patience with my learning curve. Okay. So I'm going to welcome our featured guest in a moment. This is a theme for our show, so if you can get your thoughts and questions together, we deeply appreciate all of your input. If you could use all caps, that is super helpful to what we're trying to do here. And I'm just going to welcome in our featured guest today.
You never know when you might learn something, and that's what this is about for me. These are people that I admire Please welcome my next guest.
Fantastic. Our featured guest today is Adam Burleigh. He is a person who is extremely interested in soil science, and I am grateful he is here to share his expertise with us. Hey, Adam.
Hey, Jay, how's it going?
I am still nervous, but in there doing my best to try and run the show. Just a side point for those who don't know is that Adam agreed to be my guest, and I am so glad he put himself forward to be willing to do this for the show today.
Yes, definitely. And I think you've been doing a great job covering for Enoch. So being put on the spot like that.
Oh, we've got a friend in the background. Hooray.
Yes, they always get noisy when I'm doing stuff like this.
So, I'm going to start off with some questions about your background a little bit, and then we'll get into some of the information that you provided as slides and pictures and all kinds of great stuff to move us along. Can I start by asking, when did your garden story begin? Like, what was your beginning first gardening experience for your life?
For my life, gardening's always been part of my life. I grew up with it with my parents gardening, getting in trouble in my grandparents' gardens, picking all the green beans and strawberries that my brother and I weren't supposed to get into. And with my adulthood, it's always been kind of touch and miss with it. I spent 12 years in the Army, so I didn't really garden during most of that time. But once I was out, it was right back into gardening. And I've been gardening for, the last at least 10 years solidly. And the house that we're at right now, we started buying it about 7 years ago. And my garden has went from just a couple raised beds to almost 7,000 square feet.
What?
So, yes.
Wow.
Yeah, I've got
jealous.
I have 14 raised beds, and I garden and I have 8 50-foot in-ground rows.
Wow.
So, yeah.
7 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah, and just constantly, and my soil is decomposed granite by about 18 to 24 inches thick. And it took me probably the first 4 years of conditioning it and backbreakingly breaking all the granite up and adding organic material to it so I could actually grow in it. So the in-ground beds are actually fairly new as far as in being able to get produce out of them.
Wow. So are all of your beds raised beds, or do you have some in-ground beds? Is that possible?
Yes. I've got I have 7 or 8 rows that are 24 inches wide. They're 24 inches wide and 50-foot long. And those are in ground.
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So what is it that you enjoy the most about gardening?
The peace and quiet, and being able to just get out there and clear my thoughts of the day after getting off of work, from just to unwind.
Same for me. I choose not to have any supplemental music or anything like that. And to be honest with you, I prefer to be mostly alone in my garden, even though I'm obviously quite a chatty person and enjoy that kind of interaction to a limited degree. But when I go into my garden, it's actually a peaceful place, a happy place for me.
Yes.
So I am mostly trying to chill out from the rest of my world, focus on what's going on in there. And I like to have minimal interaction, that someone comes up and has, how do I put this? A worthy question or a positive question, and they're like, "Oh, can you help me with," or "I would like you to know about," or something like that, and we're having
Hmm.
a confined discussion, and then they move off, and I'm back to my peaceful world again. I'm
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
I'm pretty much the same way. During the spring, when I'm getting all of my tomato and pepper transplants out, my son does come out and help me, but me and him just have a routine where he's doing the peppers or doing the tomatoes, and we're on completely opposite ends of the garden, and just plugging them in. Just by ourselves. Out there just having fun putting stuff in.
It sounds like both you and at least me are introverts, so that we recharge our batteries by being
Oh yeah,
alone, and the garden is such a precious place for that.
yes, definitely.
Okay. Now you mentioned the peppers. What are some of your favorite things to grow?
Um, so mainly what I do is bell peppers and then jalapenos.
Okay.
Um, I like pickling the jalapenos and then making a hot sauce out of them also, out of the red ripe ones. Um, I add the hot sauce. Well, it's more of a chili sauce. They're ground up jalapenos, and I like adding them to my eggs in the morning for breakfast and stuff like that.
Okay.
So,
So those are frozen or dehydrated, or how are the peppers?
uh, so the jalapenos, I hardly ever freeze them. The
Okay.
bell peppers, when I'm harvesting them, I'll deseed them, take the core off, and then freeze them in a vacuum bag.
Okay.
So, yeah,
And then you
and then
mentioned pickling, I think.
yes, the jalapenos I pickle, do cowboy candies, and do the hot sauces with them. So those are all fermented and canned.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I've not gotten into fermentation yet, but I'm starting to sense from articles and information that there's some good gut health reasons to become more informed and integrate them more into my life.
Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah. The main power hitter in the fermentation is the lactose bacillus,
Mhm.
and they yeah, they're just a powerhouse to get rid of all the bad bacteria that would otherwise be there if they didn't come in and take over.
Yeah, well, there's starting to be more interested research in those kinds of areas, so I think it's going to become uh, a, a growing, pardon my pun here with gardening, but a
Mhm.
growing aspect of the
Oh yeah.
processing of the garden, to go from, the fresh produce, saving it, but also integrating it into ways to improve our own health.
Yes, definitely.
Great.
Definitely is.
So, if that's one of your favorite things to grow, what's one of your least favorite things that maybe you tried, or maybe it's something that's not to your taste and you literally just said, "This is not coming into my garden"?
I would have to say melons.
Okay.
I love melons, but I struggle with them every single year because of our heat. Um, During June, it's like it's a light switch. It goes from being in the 50s and 60s for highs, and then within a week, it's in the 80s and 90s.
Oh,
And the melons just seem to just stand still all summer long, and then I'll end up getting melons that are the size of a baseball, and you can't get them any larger than that. It's just trying to keep up with the water in and trying to get shade cloth over them, and yeah, it's just a headache for me. But I try them every single year.
are they even edible when they're that size?
Yeah, they're edible, and they're sweet as all can get out.
Okay, because it's concentrated. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, great. So, I didn't quite catch what you'd said earlier on. Did you say something about granite in your soil or something like that?
Yes, it's so the valley that I live in, it used to be underwater,
Okay.
And I'm in the very bottom part of the valley, and that's where all the heavy sediment came. So all the granite that that broke down over time has all kind of just settled right where my property is. And yeah, it's a headache to try to get rid of, because then you go down 18 inches to 2 feet, and then you have nothing but clay. So once you hit the clay, you're like, okay, now what? I can't mix the granite with the clay, because then it's even worse than it was before.
So that's basically your biggest gardening challenge, is the aspects
Yes.
of, the reality of what happened thousands of years ago.
Yeah.
How,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why it's taken me a good 3 or 4 years to be able to actually get an in-ground a growing space going.
Okay.
It's because it's just such backbreaking work with a broad fork.
So, was that a surprise? Like, when you bought your land, did you have any idea that this was underlying and going to be, I don't know, the bane of your gardening existence, I guess?
I had no idea, and in hindsight, I wish I would have known about a pentrometer, which is a probe that you use to determine how dense your soil is.
Okay.
And yeah, in hindsight, I wish I would have known about those.
Take note, all people. Take note, people who are looking at new real estate.
Yes.
You care about gardening. to know about those things. And so you're mentioning a very specialized device that maybe a lot of gardeners wouldn't have been familiar with. Do you mind sharing with us a little bit more about your background? Like, what is it that that your interest in soil is much more involved than most people?
Yes, it is. Back in, I'd say 2019, I found the book Teaming with Microbes.
Okay.
And read it and absolutely loved it. And seeing that Dr. Elaine Ingham had did a opening for Jeff, and so I started researching Dr. Ingham and found out that she had the soil food web school. Yes. So I started researching into her school and stuff like that, and just went down a complete delve into it and got lost in it, and actually ended up taking her course. Okay. And learned a ton about the soil microbes and just the whole spectrum of it.
Okay.
So yeah.
Wow. And how much time and like what was the requirements and commitment that was required to be part of that course?
So it was a lot of online videos that you watched, and then there were tests, and there was research that you had to do, and purchasing microscopes and a bunch of other equipment to assess So I took the portion where I was going to be a consultant for the Soil Food Web School. Okay. And so in order for me to complete that course, I had to build compost piles and make sure that they had all the essential microbes in the compost to be able to apply to soils to get the soils up to the levels that they needed to be, with the fungal and bacteria and amoeba and nematodes and so forth and so on. So yeah, pretty in-depth stuff.
Yeah. So we're talking about dozens of hours, hundreds of hours. I don't.
With the online courses, it was probably about anywhere from 100 to maybe 150 hours worth.
Wow.
And the composting portion of it, learning how to properly have a diverse amount of material for your compost and getting it hot enough for how long, when to turn it, and so forth and so on. That was probably, it took 6 months, 8 months.
Okay.
And that was more offline, obviously. And it's a matter of, okay, let's go build a cubic yard worth of compost and keep my fingers crossed that it doesn't fail on me.
Okay.
Because you're having to wait 3 weeks to a month for it to be finished enough for you to start seeing all the beneficial organisms come and starting to count them by a volume.
Okay. So generally speaking, people who choose to take this course, what do they tend to do with that? Is there a range of different things? What did you do after you had been so involved?
Yeah. So basically there's 2 portions that you can go through with the Soil Food Web School. And the first one is being a lab tech, which is taking samples from customers and doing a essay on them to figure out what the volume of all the beneficials and bad microbes are, and then sending them a report saying, hey, this is what's in your soil and so forth and so on, and gives them just a whole slew of different information as far as in like deviations and stuff like that.
Wow.
And then the other portion is a consultant side, which is where you're actually working with a farm or what have not, and you're actually on site helping them build better soil, teaching them how to make really good compost with all the good beneficial microbes in them.
So if I can paraphrase here, basically you're harnessing microbial science so that we can become better gardeners.
Yes. Yep.
Wow.
Yep, basically becoming a microbe farmer. So
wow.
you're basically growing the microbes through your compost.
So by all of the research that you've done, all of the study that you've done, and the equipment available, things that we can't see, things that we can't quantify and know, but are important to gardening, are the kinds of features that you can potentially provide for us.
Yes, because the microbes is what's feeding the plants. It's a symbiotic relationship between the microbes and the plants. The plants are given the bacteria and fungi sugars and telling them, hey, if you want more sugar, I want this element. I want more nitrogen, or I want calcium.
What we need to feed the beneficial microbes.
Yes, and then like the bacteria will go feed on the clay or sand or what have not to get the calcium, magnesium, and all those finer minerals and vitamins. And then once they die, because a nematode comes by and eats them, then it's released to the plant. So they're going out and farming all these minerals and vitamins for the plant because the plant's feeding them the sugars to make them crave that mineral.
Okay. Wow. This is really interesting. It sounds like we're going to be plunging into depths of gardening that most of us have no idea about previously. So this is fantastic. What I'm going to do now is just slide back into the comments and just see some of the comments that people have. They may not nest in perfectly with what you just said, but I would like to kind of see what some of the comments that people are saying. Just here for me, whoop, whoop, hoop houses. That's regarding my low tunnels that I made. They are pretty sketchy and pretty basic, but they do work. So that's fantastic. So thanks for the attaboys about that. And here is Robin Gardens saying, oh, those low tunnels are great. Very basic, very cheap, and very portable. So thank you for the kind words about my stuff. I don't mind discussing them more in detail for those that are curious about them. They're just one of many different garden tools, but I have my own priorities. And I just wanted to try and do something to, be able to garden more effectively in what I call the shoulders of the seasons. So I'm just going to show this issue. Dusty Flats says, I have a dilemma. Outdoor above ground root cellar is holding temperature at 42 degrees Fahrenheit, but I have both vents closed and the humidity, it is 88%. Any idea, or is that humidity okay? Wow. Now, I've never had a root cellar, and I don't know what is the proper operating temperatures or humidity. It seems to me that that would be a little high for humidity, but I truly do not know. So, do you have any experience with that in any way, Adam?
I really don't, other than maybe getting an actual dehumidifier, and
Yep.
we're adding fans to circulate the air so that way it's moving the air around a little bit better.
So if there's anybody in the chat who has any knowledge or experience about what is the correct holding temperatures or humidity, Dusty Flats could really use your help. And it's a very specialized area that most of us have not experienced, but you never know. There might be someone in the chat that would be loving to reach out and give you a hand with that. Okay, so... This is Muddy Puddles Farm, said, after you were talking about the last time, I ran out and bought a load of hula hoops. I teased about the idea that I do hula hoop, low structures, low tunnels, and said inside pebbles rather than plastic, so I was pleased. Oh, interesting. With my dollar store hoops that I use, it's little pieces of the plastic that the hoops are made of that they just kind of stuff inside. And microplastics are part of a problem. So I tried to make sure as carefully as I could that they were contained. And then I have a friend who does kind of like fireside music things. So I turned them into basically a shaker for the children so that the children could participate and that they wouldn't be waste, that there would be a good use for them. So there was that. So thanks for saying that. I'm glad I inspired someone. I don't mind answering more questions about how I did it, why I did it, etc. I was just trying to do a quick overview so some of you would have an idea. And here's back to my low tunnels again, is Dusty Flat saying, I didn't cover low tunnels with a quilt and the cauliflowers didn't like that. Too lazy to cover. Well, yes, we have to decide, each of us our own priorities about things. And let's see. Just going to see if there's any questions in the chat. Just questions of any type. It can be towards Adam or it can be just for each other. I am grateful for your participation. Let's see. Here's a joke from you from Serena is, what do soil scientists read to get their news? The compost.
Yep, she's always throwing good jokes out in the chat.
I especially love when they're garden related because I'm
definitely.
Plus, yes. And here's a comment from Dusty Flats is, I need to get a couple of bales of straw before Monday night, cold temperatures to cover the Rootaloo door. Rootaloo. My goodness, that's not something I've heard of. I'm guessing it's a type of cold storage, but maybe some other people in the chat are familiar with it. But there's that. And here's a question from Serena. We're going to be having highs. Just for those of you who note, Serena can't always detect what we're saying in a live show. So if someone like David could consider paraphrasing what we tried to do for an answer, or anyone else in the chat could just sort of put at Serena and paraphrase this for her, that would be super helpful. Question. We're going to be having highs in the mid-30s, lows in the mid-20s for the next 3 days, including tonight. Should I cover my green stock? So is anyone in the chat familiar with green stalks in those kind of temperatures? I have no experience, but my thought is yes, you definitely want to be covering those temperatures. I can't see how there'd be enough soil that it would be warm enough for those plants, but that's, again, no experience.
Yeah, and I do have green stalks, but I don't get nearly that cold.
Okay.
So we might in January, February get down into the 20s, but it's only usually 1 to 2 days worth, and I don't bother with covering them up. Especially with the bare ones, I don't care about if I don't have strawberries in them or overwintering anything in them. Strawberries can handle down into the mid 20s, so I don't really bother with covering them up. But granted, I do have them closer to my house during the wintertime, so they're not really getting down that cold because I have them close to the house.
Okay. Can I ask how many green stalks you have?
Currently, I have 2.
Okay. Yes. I am definitely jealous of people of green stalks. I am trying to figure out a way to have them in Canada, but when I've made inquiries, and I have actually almost since the beginning of the company, the costs here in Canada are so high because we pay our exchange duty, taxes.
Yes.
We actually pay for shipping, and the shipping is actually quite outrageous to send to here, etc., so that the cost ends up being so high that and when you guys have the specials, like for example right now they're doing something like the 12 days of Christmas or something, where there's different deals happening surrounding the Black Friday type of deals, and they've had some great deals. In fact, I think yesterday the original one was something like $79 US or something like that. It was a great deal. It was a fantastic price for that day only, a different deal each day. And unfortunately, we're not eligible to partake in any of it. So I look at that and went, $79?
Yeah.
I'll buy
Yeah,
5.
Yes, that's a bum deal not being able to participate in those deals.
Well, we just have to pay
you have to pay for the shipping.
triple to quadruple the price.
Yes.
So it suddenly makes you go, whoa, my enthusiasm is a little bit less, but I am trying to work out a way to make that happen. So great. And let's see. If anyone has any questions that are specific to Adam, that's terrific. Otherwise, I'm open to any questions or comments at all. And let's see. I'm just going to try and catch up with some of you, and then we're going to go back to a section. Adam has been fantastic in that he's prepared material for our show. So after I've sort of caught up with some of you, I'm going to go into some of his prepared slides and information. And here's Bowtie saying, question, if someone only had time for one soil amendment before winter, what would you tell them to prioritize and why?
For me, it would be organic matter, whether that's compost, leaf mold, worm castings, organic matter.
Okay. So just sort of as a rough list, let's pretend we've got a beginner in the audience and they're like, organic matter. What would be the types of things that would be organic matter? Where would they start looking in their Let's say they wanted stuff that is either free or inexpensive, that is locally available. What kinds of organic matter could they consider?
It could be grass clippings, leaves, just a whole slew of stuff. Basically, if it grows out of the ground, for the most part, it's safe to use. The issue with using the fresh stuff, if you're going to be amending your soil by turning it in, then it needs to be broken down.
Okay.
As in with compost or what have not, or should be. You could do a trench method where you put it into the ground without it being composted, and it takes it. Depending on how small you cut it up, it should be fairly decomposed by the time spring arrives, depending on whether your soil is frozen or what have not. So there's a whole slew of stuff that you have to consider by doing trench methods or what have not.
Well, it's, for me, for a bunch of different reasons. Transportation is an issue for me. I'm disabled. I am cheap/frugal, depends on your point of view. That for me, I start with what the curbside waste is that's available in my area,
Yes.
that is natural materials that foolish people, people who are unaware, are taking that stuff and shoving it out to the roadside and going, I don't want any of this. And I'm like, oh, really? Can I take that? Oh yeah, I want that gone. And it's like, yes, thank you very much. And there is so much stuff. The only exception I make for some of that stuff is sometimes if something is diseased or possibly has had some exposure to pesticides or herbicides, I'm kind of like, maybe not that. So I inquire about some of those materials, but the vast majority of that stuff is garden gold to me.
Yes, it is. Yes. This time of year, our disposal company has the people bag their leaves and set them on the curb side.
Yep.
And I'm that crazy guy that goes out with my 15-foot trailer on the weekends, collecting them all so I can make leaf mold compost, what have not. And kind of funny story. It was two years ago, I believe. I was going to work the following Monday or Tuesday and heard the DJ say, "Hey, the guy in the red GMC with the trailer, thanks for picking my leaves up." And I was like, "Oh, well, that's funny. That's me."
Yes. Well, if you're a crazy person for doing that, I'm in good company with you, because I do not have such a big trailer. So I go around in my tiny little village, and I'll tell you, I am one of the village characters for sure, for a number of reasons. But at the moment, we'll focus on the leaf reason, is because my goal is every year, starting around August 15th, depending on my health and energy level and what's going on in my life, I am literally doing what you are doing. We don't have bags here. The leaves are just piled up at the edge of the road, sometimes actually into the road. That's a side issue. And I go around with containers, whether they be industrial size bags or very large tubs. And I gather the leaves. I hoard them up like they are the valuable garden gold that they are.
Oh, yeah.
And I dump them in successive trips in mounds into my yard. And then I take a very old, very sturdy mower and chop them down, because it is easier to break down with the soil. And I do that. And my goal each year is to do 500 such containers of it, chopped down to about 10-15% of the size. So that winds up meaning is that I have approximately 55 bags or containers of chopped leaves at the end of the season, or throughout the season. That's the end goal by the time we've got snow now, is that I have to 55. So some of you have been here throughout the show will have seen early in the show that the very back of my garden was a whole bunch of essentially old mulch bags crammed full of chopped leaves, because that is garden gold for a range of purposes. And I am leaf greedy. So Adam over on the West Coast area, me over here in kind of like, you might say sort of Midwestern Ontario kind of area, we're grabbing the leaves. And I can tell you there's been a few people kind of look over their shoulder at me and like, why is she so happy? Why is she coming back for all this stuff? That's just leaves. At the moment, I'm going to digress into a few other yard side waste things that happens. I actually get the stump grindings that happen and use them for pathways for myself and for other gardeners. I get cardboard from the recycling and grab that to do as a layer on my pathways. I grab pine needles if there's nothing else available, not for in contact with my food crops, but rather in the pathways as an alternative way to kind of keep down the weeds and have my pathways tidier. And the list can go on and on. I've actually salvaged probably about a truckload over time of plants that people decide they didn't want anymore. So daylilies, irises, hostas, just absolutely tons of stuff. And I salvaged it, and I have kind of like a list of people who are looking for free plants to kind of further their own gardens. And when I can find something, I'm kind of like a dating person, you know, a dating club that I connect up with someone who's got excessive plants that they don't want. In fact, I often come and actually dig them out for the people. And then I take my yard cart and go and deliver them to other people so that they get in good use. And probably to sort of quantify over approximately a decade, I probably have saved about in the neighborhood of about a truckload of bushes, plants, small trees, just all kinds of stuff, because it's a potential free plant for somebody else. And have some of you gone to see what those prices are like lately? You know,
Everything is expensive now.
Yeah. So that is, you know, how I think of yard waste and stuff as it goes along. Let's see. I'm just going to skim through. Back to Serena again. What do plants drink at social gatherings? Compost tea and worm castings tea. She's always got one for us. I think that she's, you know, through the week setting aside. Oh yeah, here's another new one. Excited.
Yes, I can see her doing that.
Okay. So, Serena's back with another very specific question. Today we have a high of 54 and it's supposed to be 25 tonight, then 35 tomorrow. Oh, sorry, that was the question she asked before. So I hope someone's answered that in the chat. I'm sorry that the cycle of the questions sort of wrapped around a little bit. And here is Bowtie Dave, or Mr. Botron. Question: what is the difference in winter performance between adding finished compost versus adding compost that's still a bit hot? So I think he's talking about unfinished compost.
Yeah, so basically, if it's not completely finished and it's a matter of all the organic matter not being completely broken down by the bacteria, fungi, and whatever other microorganisms are in there munching on it. It hasn't set yet, and it hasn't become maturated yet. So the difference between that is that you're not going to get all the proper benefits from it.
Okay.
But like with my compost, I do my compost in cages, and when it comes down to ambient temperature, and it's been at ambient temperature for about a week or two and hasn't really moved in temps, I actually take it out of the cage and go spread it on either a raised bed or on a in-ground row, mounded up probably about 3 feet tall by about 4 foot long. So that way it's still got the volume. And then I cover it with a tarp and straw and just let it sit there for a few months. So, and I'm actively coming in at least once a week, looking at it underneath the microscope. And once I see all of my beneficial microorganisms in there, I know that it's complete. And I'm also looking at the structure of it, how it looks, if everything's broken down properly, and there's no huge chunks of like tomato stems or whatever I put into it.
Okay. Wow, you are a lot more analytical about this than most of us. And for those that are looking for those kinds of answers, we appreciate it. I'm just going to say hi to a couple people that have come in since we started talking, and let me just see if I can catch up with some of them. This is Hot Potato Gardener. He is becoming a regular, and we appreciate him. And let's see, I'm pretty sure I saw somebody else. I'm not seeing it right now, but we definitely had Tony from Simplified Gardening pop in. And we
I
are
was going to say, I'm pretty sure I saw him in there too.
fantastic. Great. Okay. We love all of your questions and comments, but what I'd like to do is move into the section that Adam has spent some time preparing. So we've got some slides and information available, and I'm just going to switch out, and we will come back to your questions and comments a little bit later on. So, Adam, I really appreciate the fact that you took the time to handhold me through this, because most of the things about microbial science and how they apply to gardening is totally new to me. So I am just going to switch out here. And okay, so the next section we're going to talk about is bare soil versus cover. And he's made some very interesting notes for me. And is it ever okay to leave soil completely bare over the winter, or should every inch be covered with either a mulch or a cover crop?
Yeah, in my point of view, your soil should always be covered, whether it's with a mulch or with some sort of cover crop. And being covered with a cover crop can also mean that if you're intensively planting your crops, like tomatoes or peppers, if you have them close enough to where the soil is covered, that could be considered as your cover crop also. Your soil never wants to be uncovered.
Okay.
So it helps retain moisture, compaction when it rains. It helps protect your nutrients in your soil. It helps protect your microorganisms, the roots in the soil. I mean, there's just in my point of view, it makes no sense not to.
Okay.
So cover crops or mulches are a must in my eyes.
So in your own personal gardens, what do you use? Do you use a range of different things? Do you use specific things for specific needs? Like, let's say, let's pretend you got access to a soil test and realized that most of your garden was okay with one particular answer, but you might want to do a specific thing in another. What kinds of things do you personally use to kind of solve this bare soil issue? What kind of covers do you use? Cover crops, mulches? What works for you?
So I use a varied amount of cover crops and also mulches. So I use quite a bit of wood chips in my walkways. And then with my in-ground rows, I generally use straw because it's just easier to get the straw in the rows. And it also tells any visitors that come over into the garden, hey, don't walk here.
Yeah. Separation.
And then, yes, definitely. And I'm playing around with doing live cover crops or live mulches.
Okay.
By using strawberries or short growing perennial plants in my beds where I have flowers and so forth and so on, to where they're not going to outgrow the height of those plants.
Okay.
And so that way it's using it as a cover crop, but they're shallow rooted plants also.
Okay.
compared to the perennials where they're getting deeper and getting all the water and nutrients that they need out of the soil lower than the perennial cover crops.
Okay. Sounds great. I have not been in the direction of using cover crops yet. Because I live basically in a forest with abundant leaves, I choose to use chopped leaves. I do a little bit of chop and drop with my gardening if I'm sure that they're not pest infested or disease going on with those things. So I do a minimal amount of chop and drop so that the stuff either goes onto the garden surface itself or goes into my compost. And then, like I say, I go kind of a little leaf crazy. I'm quite sure I'm
Yes.
talk of a few of the bar nights of like, what is she doing? And she seems so happy. I don't know.
Yes, and I do use leaves also. I run my straw over with the lawnmower and bag it, and then I do the same thing with the leaves, and I'll often mix the leaves and straw together.
So you're using straw, and I don't know if you saw the early part where I had straw bales that I was kind of donated left over from Halloween. And I'm a little concerned for me about the aminopearlides, which are basically a broadleaf herbicide that could potentially is likely to be in the available straw bales that we have here. So the straw that you have, do you get it from a safe source, or do you do a bioassay to test it to find out if it's safe, or how do you get past it?
So how I end up using my straw, I don't worry about those things because I buy it in a year in advance. And then I leave it out in the garden, in a corner of the garden, for that whole entire year. So for at least 2 winters worth, it's getting rained on. And all those, if there is any concerns, it's all soaking in where I stack my hay, my straw at.
Okay.
And it's also getting all those seeds that are still in there to germinate, so I don't have to worry as much about the seeds that are left with the straw.
Okay. That's what I'd consider doing, but right now I have mine in kind of like borrowed space. So I would have to move to another area if I wanted to try and do longer term storage. Where I live, everything is tiny, small spaces, small gardens, small everything. So everything has to kind of be considered. And right now where I have my straw bales those straw bales, by the way, were going to go fill a dumpster is what they were going to do with those. Like there were so many of them and they were so large. The Halloween decorations were going to fill a dumpster, which upset me for a number of reasons.
Yes, definitely.
So I kind of rescued them, and now I have them on a pathway that is distant from some raised beds, so that at least for this winter, they're going to wait out. And I saved aside some to basically, I need to do more research, but basically my plan is to do a test with that stuff and see if it kills some quick growing crops to decide if it's something I can use right away, or if I'm gonna have to wait it out like he's talking about. And you can just, my understanding, having no experience with this, but the little bit of research I've done is you can either just place it in an area away from your growing soil, or some people choose to compost it to integrate as part of your compost. But then again, you're still doing the waiting out. You're just involving more microbes with it.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, great. Thanks for that answer. So that answers bare soil versus cover. And the next section is going to be about when should we be soil testing. So should I get a soil test now in the fall to determine what amendments my soil needs before winter, or is spring a better time?
So I actually added that one in because it's kind of a catch-22. If you're just beginning gardening, that's when or starting to garden in an area where you just built a raised bed or what have not. That's when you should be getting your soil test to know what's there. And in the fall is a great time, because then you know how you're going to have to amend in the spring, because most of your nutrients are still going to be there come springtime, and you'll be able to kind of prep yourself and write notes down for what you're going to need to purchase when you're doing amendments in the spring, as far as, and if you have to go actually purchase fertilizers or what have not.
Okay. So basically what you're talking about, people not wasting their time, money, and effort on things that may already be present or not needed in
Yeah.
the soil, is to get a baseline, you might say, to start out with,
Yes.
and then choosing what's worth, again, I'm going to call it time,
Yeah.
money, and effort,
Yes.
properly applied for what you actually need.
Yes. And I also highly suggest getting a lot of these soil testing companies will offer a additional tier of your testing that you're getting
Okay.
to identify like heavy metals and imperilids or what have not. And to me, that's more of what I look for when I do a soil test, which I only do a soil test maybe every 5 years or so, for the nutrients. But it was important for me to do it when I first moved here, to see if there was any heavy metals or what have not, stuff that would actually prevent me from growing.
Okay.
And so in my eyes, that's what I would test for, is because by watching your plants grow, you can kind of, once you've been gardening for a while, you can kind of tell what nutrients it needs and what to add during the season.
Okay. Now, I'm totally new to the idea of soil testing, so pardon me if my questions are pretty basic, but I've seen from some of the stores a really basic thing that they call, like you call it your big box store,
Mm-hmm.
really basic soil test that you can buy for, we'll call it between $10 and $20.
Yeah.
Are any of those of any use whatsoever, or is that basically so simplistic that it's of no use for a gardener?
Yeah, if you're looking for just your basic NPK results and your pH, then yeah, those are fine for a home garden.
Okay.
They're not exact, but it will give you a good idea of what's in there.
Okay, so it's an indicator, not necessarily a precision.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And then you do soil testing. You mentioned that. For soil testing, is there sort of like a basic level that your average gardener might look for, and then sort of like aspects that they kind of add on if they're concerned about something or worried about a specific element to be there or not be there?
So the type of soil testing that I do is I'm actually taking samples from compost or soil, and I am putting them into pipettes. So I'm putting them into pipettes like this.
Okay.
With 1 gram of soil in it to 4 grams of water, and then I'm putting them onto a microscope slide and counting how much bacteria is in that 1 drop of water, how much fungi, how many nematodes, how many, all the microorganisms. I'm counting them, and then I'm doing math equations to figure out what the biomass of those microorganisms are.
Oh, wow.
And doing deviations and stuff like that, and the means of the calculations and stuff like that, and then doing a report based on what I'm finding and how often I'm seeing them on the slide.
And then that report, do you kind of translate for those of us who are
for the layman?
Yes,
Yes.
science-impaired people who are, uninformed, what we might say. You basically say these figures and these numbers mean that you most likely need a source of, I'm just making this up, but just saying you really need to deal with, say, nitrogen. Maybe that's a bad example because it's so abundant in soil, but we'll give that one for now, is nitrogen. And I suggest these common sources of nitrogen, see what is available in your area.
Yeah. So yeah, that and nitrogen would be a great example if bacteria levels were low.
Okay.
Um, which with all of my tests that I've ever done, I've never seen bacteria being low.
Okay. Yeah, that's why
Bacteria
I kind of
it is
I
always
realized
high.
nitrogen was a bad choice as an example. I went,
Um,
yeah.
well, no, it's not because if you're like going with like leaf mold based soil, right? You dumped in
Yeah.
a ton of
Fungal.
leaf mold.
Yeah.
It's going to be fungally dominant,
Correct.
and then in that case you might need to add nitrogen based material to get your bacteria up if you're growing vegetables.
Okay.
Um, so yeah,
Okay.
and
Um,
then if it's low in fungi, you would add humic acid, or um, you could also add fish emulsion.
all right. Okay, great. And fish emulsion is something that you can either make yourself or buy from the store. So, but those of you who are DIYers, I have no experience with fish emulsion, but I've spoken to people who do. I urge you to research and really consider before you create your own DIY fish emulsion, because it is probably one of the stinkiest processes that we as an ordinary gardener are likely to do. So think about your husband, think about your wife, think about your neighbors, because DIY fish fertilizer is fragrant. I'll put it that way. Yes.
Yes, it is.
Okay. So what does ideal compost look like? And what qualities should I look for in compost? Like, should I be looking at age, ingredients, textures? If its primary purpose is feeding the soil over the winter, should I be thinking about it a little bit differently than spring planting?
Yeah, so with your compost, what you're looking for is you don't want to be able to identify anything that you added to your compost when you first initially built it, other than wood chips. The decomposing of the wood chips is going to take longer than anything else because the fungi have to break it down. But you want it to be a really dark chocolate color that clumps together. And with my compost, I try to keep it roughly to where when it's like a ringed out sponge
Okay.
type of moisture. Um, 1 or 2 drops is okay. No, if it's pouring out, that's definitely too wet. But yeah, sticky and it has little channels in it, and kind of if they squeeze it a little or try to break it apart a little bit, it falls apart. So
Do you mind if I just show us a quick slide that you showed
yeah,
to show what
yep,
ideal compost looks like? And this is what ideal compost should be looking like.
it's got little aggregates in there, and you can see the little uh, just where all the bacteria or where all the microorganisms have been. Uh, you can see a couple pieces of wood chips in there.
Okay, fantastic. Great. Okay, let's just see. What quantity of compost is right? And how thick of a layer of compost is recommended for a vegetable bed that's going to be sitting empty for the winter? So now we're just talking about what we're going to apply for now as a prep for next year.
And that's all dependent on what you're trying to go for with that. If I'm getting a raised bed ready, it's going to be I'm adding 2 to 3 inches of it to fill my beds back up to level with the compost, so that way I'm not having to go out and go buy bagged compost or raised bed mix or what have not. And if I'm doing it in ground, it's dependent on how much organic matter I have left in my soil. They say roughly 3% organic matter. I think it should be higher than that. So if your soil is low in organic matter, you could add a bunch of compost and let all the organisms drop down into the soil for you. What I personally do is I use teas and extracts when I apply my compost. So I'm not having to make a whole lot throughout the year. And I just drench it so that way I know that all my microorganisms are getting it into the soil and being replenished.
Okay. For right now, I'm just going to go back to the audience for a little while. We will go back to your prepared information. But right now, I'm just going to deal with some of the questions that have shown up. And if I've missed your question, I do apologize for missing that. You guys have been so abundant with your communication that I am spoiled for choice here. So right now, question from Bowtie Life: how often does the average home gardener truly need to test their soil to stay on track?
In my point of view, every 3 to 5 years. And once you get your soil to a healthy level, if you're gardening organically, you'll see a means to where it will start to be too much nutrients. If you're adding compost or organic fertilizers or what have not, then you can just kind of halt that and then follow up with another test the following year from not adding anything.
So I'm just going to go back to some other questions. This one here is Bowtie Life. He's saying, Mr. Botron, is leaf mold takes time. What's the best quick use version for leaves for people who want instant soil benefits before winter?
A mulch.
Okay. Yes.
Chop them up and use it as mulch.
Yes. For me, I'm thinking mulch. And the other thing that comes to mind for me is saving aside some of it to use in your compost.
Yes.
So, but leaf mold, if you can be patient and accept it, that there's a place that you can put it, is that having a fungally dominant option besides just regular compost mulch is another additive to your garden that is simply asking for your time to gather it, chop it, and a place to put it, and to just be patient when it does what it does. Yeah. Okay, so let's see. Here's one from the Wickershire Project. He said, compost color always varies with the material composition. Yeah, I think it gets dark variations of brown and black.
Yes and no. I never want to see a black compost because then that tells me that it's out of balance somewhere. With the training through the Soil Food Web School, when it's turning black, that means that it has gone anaerobic, and then you're getting all of your bad microorganisms in your compost, and that is a no-go in my view.
Okay. Can you explain a little bit more about that? Like what happens if it does go black and that starts to happen? Does it harm the helpful bacteria that's in there?
Yes. So if it's starting to turn black, then you're starting to get there's either too much water or there's too much moisture, not enough oxygen, and all of your bad bacteria and other anaerobic microbes are starting to outcompete the good ones, and they're going to basically devour them, and they thrive in bad conditions. So that's when your compost is starting to smell bad. That's when your compost, you'll see that it's getting extremely hot, where it's getting in the range of 175, 180 when you're first starting to build it. And yeah, that's your two main ones, is the heat and the bad smells.
Let's see what we have here. Serena, back with another joke. How does the gardener say thanks? Thank you very much. Had to be said. Let's see. Here's a comment from the Wickeshire Project. We've blended compost into grow bags into the soil for our plants, and they did poorly. Having a bi-level layer did much better. Necromass layer and a lower mineral layer without much organic material. I have heard that if you integrate too much organic material into the soil, it can be excessive.
Mm-hmm.
It can cause issues.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. And here's Tony saying, I love leaf mold, having half a ton set waiting to use. Wow. Half a ton. Wow, that's incredible. Very jealous. Again, tiny place living. So what I do is I actually have an area where I line up my composters, but it's underneath a tree. So the area directly under the tree, I try to basically, without causing too many issues, that's where I put my leaf mold so that the fungally dominant part of what's happening with the leaves breaking down can interact with the tree. And superficially, not a soil scientist, my understanding is that that's not a bad place to put it.
Yeah.
Great. Let's see what else we have here. If anyone else has any questions. Here we go. Here's one. The Wickeshire Project. I'm going to slaughter this word here. Hydrolysate. The spelling of it. Yeah. If maybe somebody in the chat could help him with that, that would be great. And here is Robin Gardens. I bring in organic leaf mold compost because it's the only organic certified thing I can get in bulk deliver. So buy. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So what I'm going to do is just go back to your presentation, and I will select out comments and questions as I can find them. I do apologize if I've somehow missed your comment. You guys are so busy in the chat that I'm not able to hardly keep up. Okay. So should manure be fresh or aged to apply now?
So with your manures, as long as you know where they are coming from and what the farmer has been feeding them, they can be added fresh this time of year, and overwintering will cool them down enough to where your nitrogen is not going to be too high to burn the plants, as long as you're growing annuals. If you're using it with the perennials, you definitely want them aged and or composted. And another concern would be with like cattle. A lot of the ranchers here in the States use salt licks or will have added sodium for the cattle. So that's a concern also, is you would want all of that salt to be leached out by aging it first before you put it onto your actual beds. So horse manure and rabbit and so forth and so on, you could add this time of year and not worry about the nitrogen affecting for the following year.
Okay. What type of mulches are available? And Besides leaves, what other readily available cost-effective mulch that does a great job of protecting and feeding the soil through winter?
I know for me here in the Pacific Northwest, and for you also, if you're driving down the road and you see an arborist cutting down or trimming trees, I've done it in the past where I've stopped and pulled, like, a couple $20 bills out and gave them my address and said, "Hey, could you drop this off at my address when you're done?" And most of the time, the drivers were like, "Yeah, let's go." They'll take my money and come drop it off when they're done with the job.
Okay.
That's a good one. Another good cost-effective way, or most of the time free, or sometimes free, is for like Halloween events. You can go around and ask for their hay bales, like you've done.
Okay. Now, does it matter hay versus straw regarding the garden? My impression is that hay can contain more seeds sometimes.
Yes. Hay. So with your straw compared to hay, your straw is what they're getting the seeds from. Like if you're not buying oatmeal from the store, or you're buying oats for your livestock, they're cutting majority of the seeds off of that plant, and then that's your straw. Your hay is generally grasses that have gone to seed most of the time, or there's quite a bit of grass seed in it. So they're not getting majority of the seeds off of the actual hay.
So do you mind if I just show some examples of some mulches? I
Yeah.
believe you have some pictures. Let me just grab those up for you. Here's a couple of images from Adam's property. And what is this first one showing us?
So this first one's showing us of my tomatoes being in early spring, and with the straw over the actual rows. And then you can see down the very center is wood chips that I've been adding to. And that's the two different types that I use in my row beds, is the pathway of the wood chips and then straw for the actual rows that the plants are in.
Okay. Now this next picture here is showing you using some kind of construction material arch, a series of them. Yes.
Yeah. It's cattle panels attached to raised beds. And then once again with wood chips as a mulch. And further back towards the higher raised bed, that is my dreaded Bermuda grass that I try to battle every single year. And ashamed to say it, but I do spray to try to alleviate it out there and slowly getting it under control. But yeah, it's just, and in the raised beds where the cattle panels are, is a mixture of straw and leaves mixed together. And yeah, that's
okay. So I'm just going to return to our banners here. Let's see. Does a thick mulch make pest or disease worse?
Yes and no. I know with your mulches like your wood chip or pretty much any type of mulch, it will draw in like voles or gophers or what have not. And also slugs if your area is wet during the winter time. But to me, the benefit of having a mulch during the wintertime and removing it in the spring to kind of fill in the gopher holes or vole tunnels or what have not is more beneficial than not having it covered and not having them there. Every spring and throughout the summer, I see snakes in my garden coming in to get the gophers that I have in my garden. And by midsummer, I don't have a gopher issue. But it's an endless cycle. They just come back in every winter because they're like, hey, this guy's made us a perfect home. Let's go live here. And then the snakes are like, hey, this guy's giving us free food.
So I'm going to show a couple slides here that were relating to that. And can I just ask what we're seeing here?
So that is a omycete. That is from a fungal disease on one of my peach trees. And that, with your omycetes, when you're looking through them through a microscope, there's hundreds, if not thousands, of strands, and they look very similar to your beneficial fungi. But when you're seeing when they're all clumped together like that, and the little oval shaped, like almost egg sacs on the bottom left, those are the spores from those. And when the wind picks up or it rains, that's when they start spreading to other parts of the tree or to other trees. And a lot of your blights that you get on your tomatoes or what have not, they look very similar underneath the microscope as what this omycete does. So you can identify whether it actually is blight or some type of fungal issue just by identifying it. This is rice mold, which is very similar. I don't recall off the top of my head if it's an omycete or not, but they have very similar characteristics. And that little bubble on the bottom right of the hyphae there, that's a definite sign that this is a organism that isn't considered good, because obviously mold deteriorates and breaks down stuff that's no longer alive or is dying. And they spread fastly and can harm your plant within a matter of days.
Wow. Well, it's nice to have connection with the scientist who can help us through some of these things. Okay. And let's see. What are some of the values of the nutrients in leaf mold? And
so leaf mold compared to compost or to worm castings is actually pretty low, but it's really high in fungal activity. And that's where you're getting your benefits from it. It's got trace minerals in it also, which you benefit more from than if it was from compost without any leaves inside the compost or what have not. So I would say trace minerals is your best part of the leaf mold, and then also soil structure when you're turning it in.
so you've provided some slides for me regarding this aspect of microbial life. And so I've got this one here. And what are we looking at here?
So that is that's what's called it's called cellulose.
Okay.
And that's they're like springs in the wood, and that's what holds your trees together. That's what allows the trees to sway in the wind and not break, because they're like a bunch of slinkies that are stuck together. And you'll see cellulose all the way up to the leaf nodes where the stem of the leaf is.
Okay.
And yep.
Okay. So the next slide here is showing us hyphae?
Yeah, it's hyphae or hypha. Yeah, either or way. So that's a beneficial fungi strand.
Okay.
And they're so your beneficials are 3.5 micrometers wide or larger. And the way that we determine the width of them with the micrometers is there's a little black dot. So any of these black dots on there on the screen, you're basically imagining how many you can get across there. If there's more than 3.5 dots, then you're good. And it's a beneficial fungi strand.
Okay. And now I've got an additional slide here showing what are we looking at here?
So those are also beneficial fungi, and it's the fruiting body, it's the micro or the mushroom heads. And that was in a pile of compost that I had a couple of years ago. And I saw that it was microscopic fruiting bodies, and I was like, man, I got to get a picture of this. So it was just interesting to know that the mushrooms can fruit and be microscopic also to where you can't see them with the naked eye.
Wow. And then this is the last slide. What are we looking at here?
So here we're seeing it's a fungal feed and nematode, and towards the bottom of it, there's a long straight center of where the mouth is, and that's what it uses to pierce the fungi and basically consume the fungi.
Wow.
It's using it as kind of like a needle. Your root feed and nematodes are going to look very similar, but they're going to have nodes at the bottom of their spike, and it's basically attached to like a really strong elastic band,
Okay.
so to say, that allows the spike to shoot into the root to consume it. And that's your two differences between the fungi feed and nematode and your root feed and nematodes. And then there's also a couple of the amoeba on that slide also.
Wow. Sorry, I took that slide maybe away.
No, it's fine.
Quickly for you. Okay. So we're just getting close to wrapping up here. So are there leaf types that we should avoid using if we want to put them in leaf mold or compost?
The two off the top of my head would be walnut and or eucalyptus. If either or of them are available to you, I would not put them into leaf mold, just for concerns of the juglone or for the allelopathic in the actual eucalyptus. I've seen some say that the juglone from the walnut leaves are gone once they dry and fall off the tree. But I would personally put that into compost to know that it's taken care of.
Okay. All right. And one last section to deal with. That's if there isn't questions from the audience to wrap up for your sections. How and when should we be applying leaf mold? Is it any different when we're applying it to in the fall, or should it just be worked in, or should it be left on the top? How and what application method should we be using?
If you're looking for better soils structure, so more tilth, then I would definitely work it in. If you're looking for moisture control or to add to your mulching use it on top and just spread it on top.
Wow. Okay, great. I'm just going to slip back to the comments and see if there's any specific things that people are looking to know in the comments. I am, like I had mentioned previously, if you shout it out at me with a caps, that really helps me seeing your information more easily. Let's see. Here's someone who has a different opinion. His Bowtie Life. He says, I'm going to have to disagree on the walnut. The jungleone washes away very fast. If it's any acidic values in pine needles, that also disappears quickly when dead. I use those things in small quantities near my vegetable crops, but I don't use them exclusively in large quantities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep, and I do agree with that, and I have seen reports to where they say that, but if I'm going to be making a bunch of leaf mold, I'm not going to risk it personally.
Yeah. I find that we have a section where there are walnut trees, and believe you me, virtually nothing lives underneath them. It was a real problem. Well, a solution if you didn't want much growing underneath your trees, but they became dominant for sure. Dusty Flat says, I have a large tumbler composter last year that doesn't get hot. Moisture is good. I stuffed it with chopped brassicas and leaves. Yes. I came really close to getting a tumbling composter. And my hesitation had to do with the volume. My understanding, and I'm not saying I'm an expert, we do have an expert in the audience with Simplified Gardening, who is Tony, and he's written a book on composting, is my understanding, in a simplistic way, is that magic 3x3x3 cube works as the ideal parameter, and I've never seen a tumbling composter that is that size.
Yep. My minimum is the same size, a minimum of 1 cubic yard.
So let's see if there's any other comments. Our time is coming up, so let me just take a quick look through and see if there's anything that I have missed. I obviously have missed some. I do apologize, for that. You guys are such a chatty and wonderful bunch about sharing information with each other that I literally can no longer keep up. Here's a quick comment from David again. Mr. Botron is, I love cattle panels. He screamed it. I have 25 of them on his 1/4 acre property. Wow. So he's,
yes, quite a bit
on that.
There are so many different uses for the cattle panels.
So here is the Wickershire Project saying fish emulsion are a cooked material. I was thinking about hydrolysate, which is a cold enzyme ferment process, no cooking. And with that, the nutrient is better preserved nutrient in full. Okay.
And also the hydrolysate is also, it includes the fats of the fish also.
Okay.
So yeah. There's a little bit more nutrients in it.
Okay. Well, I am super grateful for you spending your time here with us, understanding soil science to a deeper degree than I had previously known in my life. I am a newbie at all of this stuff, and I am super grateful for all the experience and education that you have, and that you took your time out today to share it with us. And when we have deeper soil issues and want to learn a little bit more about soil science, I think now you're probably going to be getting those kind of questions in the chat, and I am here for it and grateful. And I want to thank you for your time today. And again,
thank you for having me.
Yes, and thanks to the audience for the time and energy that you've put out today. We are super grateful for that as well. Just a reminder that you can look into our archives and see some of the previous shows that I had mentioned. We do get together every Saturday and Sunday, and we will be having a show tomorrow, Sunday. Our featured guest is Robin Gardens, and she's going to be talking about small space gardening and about different techniques that we can use to be more effective with that small space gardening. And I do encourage you to be here for that show. We are Saturday and Sunday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, and 7 p.m. in the UK. I am hoping that some of you, as you move on with your days, take a look at our show to like, subscribe, and share. And we are still grateful to those of you who show up on the replay. We don't forget you. One of the things that I would like to do as we go is just one more bit of thanks to Adam for taking his time and expertise out for us today. And I am super grateful for it. And thank you for being here.
Yep. Thank you, Jay.
Great. Thanks to all of you for being here today. We appreciate you and are grateful for your time and patience with me as I am in the learning stage of being the apprentice. I hope you can see that I'm making efforts with each show to move things ahead to be a little better at this. And tomorrow is my last day in which I'll be sharing an experience with Robin Gardens. And I also am going to be, we're going to be seeing Enoch back again and doing shows after that. So thank you for your time, and I am just going to see you again tomorrow. Let's get growing.
All right, take the run. See you on the flippy flops.